I'm Rochelle Courtenay, and I'm super excited to bring you another bloody podcast. We're joined today by Kath Koschel, who is the founder of The Kindness Factory, a global not-for-profit organisation and movement which inspires ordinary people to do extraordinary things. A former professional cricketer and Ironman competitor, Kath has defined all medical prognoses by teaching herself to walk on 3 separate occasions.
So when I was 8, I decided that's what I want to do. I'm going to play cricket for Australia. The second problem that I have with a goal as big and audacious as playing cricket for my country is this. I was absolutely shithouse at playing cricket. They said, Kath, we love your grit, we love your passion, we wish every athlete had your work ethic, but mate, the skill is just lacking. Still performing, going really, really well, until suddenly my life changed in a very quick and sudden way, just 4 games into that professional career, when I broke my back playing cricket of all things. Paralysed from the waist down, they told me, Kath, we're really sorry, but you're never ever going to walk again.
Despite facing other serious personal, mental and physical setbacks, her resilience allowed her not only to overcome these challenges, but also see the good in the world when others couldn't. In November 2015, she founded Kindness Factory with the goal of encouraging and inspiring 1 million acts of kindness. Welcome, Kath. You founded your charity the same year I did. We're like founder mates.
We've always been founder mates.
Yes, we have, which is why you're coming here today, right? Because most of the people that we have on our podcast are about the women that we've helped and the people that we serve, but also volunteers. But for you, it was a little bit different. For me, it was like, how could we share a story about founding the charities and what we do, and really about friendship too, which was what I think this podcast was about. But we always start our podcast with the would you rather question, right? So you went to pick these up. You got a little smack on the hand because you had to wait your turn. Right. Would you rather make your own pads from cotton wool or change your pad less frequently to save money?
Oh, probably make them, I'd say. Make them from, but I'm not that good with making stuff.
Did you do crafts at school?
No, not really. Like I got in too much trouble to sit still. Well, just probably from a hygiene perspective, I probably prefer to make them than change them less. Or does hygiene not come into it? I don't know.
No, you're the boss of this answer, mate. You're the boss of all of your answers today.
Make them.
All right. Okay. All right. So let's go back to when we met, right? So Kath and I were invited to an event, right? They funded 200 women. 198 of them were extraordinary, and then there was just Kath and I, who were pretty much like the naughty corner of the trip, right, at Byron Bay.
We were sort of had tables assigned where our names were going to be and all that kind of stuff. And there was a bit of a big special announcement where they'd brought 2 businesses together, one who founded a brewery and beer. They were making and creating beer, and another who'd made a pub as well as then a chocolate maker. We all got given a beer. I don't normally mind beer. I don't think, Rochelle, you're a big fan of it.
Not a big fan.
Rochelle took a swig because we all had to on the count of 3 as a cheers, and then spat the beer back into the can. I looked at her, who I am a fan of beer, and wanted to do exactly the same thing.
But didn't.
We locked eyes, and I thought, that's the person I need to spend the rest of my time with here, because the rest of them and I didn't seem to have that similar energy. So I think you did the same thing. You then went to ask me my name, who I was, what I did, then went to the table to figure out where you were sitting and changed the place card of the person who was sat next to me, who'd paid money to sit next to me.
I still didn't know that.
And then we sat together for the rest of the night and got into a lot of trouble. There were a lot of looks from a lot of people.
We were snort laughing.
We were very inappropriate at certain times. I'm pretty sure we nearly got kicked out as well.
I don't think there's ever been.
We've never been invited back. I don't think there has been one. I think they cancelled it the next year, probably because of the ruckus. We ended up on the bus on the way home I'm pretty sure we rallied a few of the troops
Yeah. And we wanted
to get on our level. Yeah, we wanted to stay.
We have to now go back because I didn't know your story, right? And it's really interesting that even before you came today, I'd never listened to one of your podcasts, and you invited me to come and watch you speak at an event, which people pay a lot of money to come and see you, right? You speak all over the world.
Kindness is important. It is at the very heart of our ability to generate well-being and the power for change. Drawing attention to our experience of kindness has the potential to disrupt the way that we think about society, to change both what we do and how we do it.
Being a founder of a charity, like when I started Share the Dignity, I thought I could just collect period products and give them to the charities, right? Little did I know I needed to have a board of directors, a constitution, pay fees and permits in every state, have licenses. It's so in depth and people have no understanding of the back bit of it. And I don't know too many other founders. So whenever you or I've got a problem, we like just pick up the phone or send a text message and say, has this ever happened to you? Or has this ever happened to you? It's a connection that I think we're really blessed to have, right?
We are, yeah.
Can you tell me if you had to summarize your shit show story in in like 3 minutes, could you tell the people who are listening? So Kath has no feeling in your foot, right?
Yeah, I've got no feeling below my left knee.
So you can kick her, doesn't hurt.
Burn me, yeah. Sit me next to a heater, whatever you want to do, yeah.
What makes Kath Koschel super fucking powerful?
Look, to be honest, I've had the most privileged life someone could have. Remove the adversity and all the hardship and the challenges and all that kind of stuff. I'm one of 4 kids, 3 older brothers, so the youngest only girl. Wouldn't have had it any other way. Love them. That's probably where I got my grittiness and, resilience, but also the humour and the sick sense of humour in some ways. Had a very unblemished life until the age of 23. I was an aspiring cricket player. I played professionally over in the UK for Middlesex. Got my first crack in 2011 in New South Wales, for New South Wales. Kept my spot. 4 games into that professional career, I very suddenly broke my back. I was paralysed from the waist down, told that I'd never walk again. Had 5 completely unsuccessful surgeries. The 6th one on the Gold Coast seemed to work until a series of unfortunate events and post-surgical complications led to me coming within about 3 hours of having my leg amputated. It was saved. That's how I now live with this disability of no feeling below the left kneecap. But I went on to rehab for 12 months to teach myself how to walk again when everyone told me it was impossible. And I had to regain independence there to be able to live safely by myself or outside of that rehab environment. And my body was not in the greatest of places. And I really battled with rehab. When I say battled, I'd spent probably my entire life up until that point where my identity was built around this concept that I was the good cricket player and I was the athlete. And so when I went to a party as a kid, it was, here's Cash, she's the good cricket player, the athlete, etc. And so I learned that was the most interesting thing about me until about 22. And then it all come crashing down. And I'm in rehab and battling with my environment. I'd never struggled with mental illness up until that point. And it was the isolation and the loneliness of that environment that really sort of started to give me a bit of head noise. It wasn't anything too serious, but just, who am I now? What am I going to do with my life? All that kind of stuff. And really what started to, I guess, make the journey easier, there were several things. The first was the gift of perspective. I was surrounded by the elderly in rehab, like war veterans and older ladies who had dementia that actually thought I was their granddaughter and all that kind of stuff. And so my whole world started to open up in that environment in that way. But again, just a really tough thing to consider, given where you'd come from and where you wanted to be at that point in your life. But thankfully for me, my luck changed 4 weeks into my stay. I met a patient, his name was Jim. He'd injured his spine on the Tough Mudder obstacle race. So he was a semi-professional athlete himself, broken part of his back. And there we were with a very similar prognosis, so teaching ourselves how to walk again, very similar backstory and a very similar journey ahead of relearning how to walk. And look, up until that point in my life, I'd had high school flings and stuff like that, boyfriends, but then I'd sort of committed, the next couple of years of my life to being an athlete, and that takes a lot of, work and all that kind of stuff. So relationships had sort of come second to that. And here he was, he was 25, I was 22, similar age, mindset, mentality. And, as the days went on and we started this friendship, very quickly it evolved and turned into love. which is a little bit funny because who finds love in a rehab centre? Well, I did, and it was truly magical. I remember 3 months into our relationship feeling really grateful that I actually broke my back, which is so weird to say because, again, I've just spoken about this concept of loss of identity and what am I going to do and all that kind of stuff. But then, I'd found this thing that was far greater in my mind, which was love. And we were like normal young kids falling in love, but, instead of long walks on the beach, we did wheelchair races in the corridor and all that kind of stuff. And dreamed of a life that would exist once we finished rehab. So for us, those plans were pretty amazing. They looked like this. It'd be 4 kids, 3 boys and a girl, just like my family, the house in Broadwater on the Gold Coast, pet turtles, dogs, you name it. We kind of dreamt it, really quirky stuff. But
you had a lot of time to be dreaming about your future though, right?
Absolutely. When you're not in those sort of sessions, hydro rooms or like the grueling physio or the rub downs and even the psych stuff and all that kind of stuff, like really trying to wrap yourself around this new sense of identity, you got nothing but time on your hands. And I wasn't working remotely too much then and didn't really have a job because I'd lost it as an athlete, and same for gym. And so we'd either do extras in the physio rooms and things like that, or we'd just dream. And to give ourselves that distraction from rehab as well, it was important to do. And, as lots of different love stories goes, ours wasn't to be. 12 months into our relationship, I was now considered an outpatient, which meant I could visit 3 mornings a week. I'd go to rehab, and then I could, get a job and be at home or do whatever and transition back into normal kind of life. And Jim had a day to go before he was to be considered an outpatient. We'd just put the lease on the house. The dreams that we'd spent so much time dreaming were about to come true. And on his last night of inpatient care at rehab, he took his own life. He committed suicide. And at 23 at this point, I was just completely lost. I was so broken. And it's hard to think back at it as a, now sort of 35-year-old who's, fit and healthy, has recovered from all that, to think back to the state of mind that I was in at 23 when all of this happened. First I lose this dream of playing cricket, the one thing that I wanted to do since I was a little girl. And then I lost the person who taught me that there was so much more to life than hitting a ball around a park, who gave me that sense of love and protection and allowed me to be vulnerable with him. And I didn't know, again, it wasn't because I had a lack of support or people, but how do you go through those 2 huge things and who do you turn to and what do you even say? And I was so afraid of verbalizing what I didn't even know how to give words to what I was feeling. It was so dark and hard. And I just had a mental breakdown and it was really, really ugly. And at rock bottom, I think it was J.K. Rowling that said it best, there's one silver lining of hope, and that is that you've only got one way to go when you're at rock bottom. You can't go any lower. And I don't think I could have, genuinely, if you were to ask.
What did rock bottom look like for you?
I've never been asked that. It's a good question. I went back to rehab for a routine checkup. I walked past his old room and I just lost myself. I had 4 male nurses pinning me down. It was like my brain overtook my body, or my heart did. I think my broken heart took over, and I just went, this is too much for one person. And I just, I wasn't at risk to anyone else, or I don't think I was even at risk to myself, but I just kind of imploded, as in just ran into a wall and just completely lost myself. It was like a psychotic kind of break. And it's so hard. It's hard to talk about, not because I'm afraid of it, but because when you're healthy, like you look back on that and go, how did my body and mind do that to me? Because now I can see that, that's not a healthy thing to do.
It's breakdown for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Everything was broken.
Yeah, no judgment at all. I'm actually kind of not proud that it happened, proud that I'm now in a better position to be able to help others, of course, but that I can talk about it and destigmatize it to people who you don't have to go through these big life events. It can happen at the smallest times, right? And there's no shame in it. We're allowed to break and mend and glue ourselves back together and live with these scars. And there's beauty in that as well.
Broken crayons still work, right?
They do, yeah. But I remember, so I was obviously, I had these 4 big men sort of pinning me down and they were doing their job, no resentment there. And I ended up getting sedated in that rehab environment. And when I woke up from that, I don't drink very much, but, you know, when I was a kid, did a little bit and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, you wake
You've
up
always
from
been
it.
an athlete, right? So
Yeah. But I'm sure most people have had a hangover before, and I certainly have. It was kind of like that, right? I woke up from this sedation, not with the, you know, shocking headache and all that kind of stuff, but I had no idea what had happened. Like I had a really vague recollection of it. And I was like, where the hell am I? Like all that kind of stuff. And this beautiful nurse come over to with the best intentions ever. And I can't fault her for saying this because what she said actually had merit and truth in it. And she said, Kath, you're in rehab. You've just had a bit of a setback here, mate. Like you weren't very well, all that kind of stuff. And she said, I just want you to know that this is very normal. What you've endured is not normal, and this is a very normal reaction to a very abnormal life event of, you know, the back and all that kind of, and then obviously the loss of Jim. And she said the right thing, and even clinically, that's what you're supposed to say. I've learned, but in my head, I'm a very straight and rational shooter, and I just kept thinking, I don't like feeling like this, and if this is normal, as in if this is what I have to feel for the rest of my life, this isn't a life for me. Like I want to be different then. Like call me crazy, but I don't want to feel like this. I sort of, you know, come to, and I was on crutches and all this kind of stuff at this point. I was sort of getting my bearings and all that kind of stuff. And I just said, look, I need to get on my feet again. Can you help me up? All that kind of stuff. And they're like, of course. And I said I was going to the bathroom, and I went out the front of the rehab center, and someone coincidentally caught a taxi to the rehab center. And I just decided to jump in the taxi. I had nothing on me, so like no possessions. I think I had a backpack actually with a pair of socks and a tin of deodorant in it.
just what you need.
And a credit card, obviously,
Right,
in
I was
my
gonna say,
wallet
did you
or
have
something
money?
like that. Yeah.
Right.
And so I just got in the taxi, didn't tell anyone. And I said to the taxi driver, can you drive me to the airport? And he did. And I got to the airport, got a one-way ticket to the Gold Coast where we were going to start our life together. Worried the hell out of my family and friends. At this point, rehab have contacted my family, and my parents like, where the hell are you? You know, this was sort of 2013. So I don't know if I had an Apple iPhone, but I probably didn't have it on or something.
Flip Nokia.
Yeah, something like that probably. I'm not sure what I had then. But so everyone's like kind of wondering where the hell I am. And then police get involved, realise that I've tracked my credit card and figured out that I've got a ticket at the airport. And so then anyway, at the Gold Coast was Jim's mum, who I just was, I loved her so much. I did. She's since passed, and it's a story for another day, or if we get the chance later. But I just wanted to connect with her. I think for several reasons. It was a closeness to Jim. And for 10 months, this was 10 months after his passing, I felt like I was diagnosed with PTSD as a result of all this stuff. And and then started to understand the symptoms and what that all represented and what it meant and why I was feeling the way that I was, you know, hypervigilance and the lack of sleep and the nightmares and all this kind of stuff. And I got to the Gold Coast, and anyway, she then contacted her and said, look, I've got her. She's fine. Well, she's not fine, but we're going to just spend some time together. Can you not contact us? But I'll alert you if anything needs to be done, but just let us spend some time. And I'll never forget it. I got to her house, and I knocked on the door. She answered, she opens the door, and I just fell on her. And we sat in her kitchen on the tiled floor. We didn't speak like for hours, and she just held me. And it brings back so much emotion. Now, I never talk about this because no one ever asked, but it's probably the most beautiful moment in my life. Like in that, my mum's amazing. She is, but no buts. She just is. My mum's amazing. But in that moment, I needed that love. And I needed his mum to kind of hold me through the fact that I'd taken on so much blame. Like I felt so much responsibility because he was so fucking beautiful, and I'd lent on him so much in rehab. Like I lent on him the entire time. Like I can't do this. I don't want to do it. I whinged. You know what I'm like? I fucking whinge all the time. I didn't want to do it, and he just pushed me every day. And there's no way I'd be walking without him. Like I wouldn't be. And there's no way I would have done any of the things that I've done to this day without him doing what he did for me in that moment. But he was never going to be the one that was going to take his own life. Like, and there's so many stories out there like that, which is such a shame. And I just wish I knew that he was battling too, like, because he never told me. And I was like, well, fuck, if he didn't tell me, and I was, he told me I was the love of his life. And I have to believe that our love was true, like, because for 2 years there, I just committed I just said, well, he mustn't have felt what I felt, because there's no way I would have left him. And there was no resentment. I just felt empathy towards him, because I was like, fuck, like, how did I not see it coming? And I loved him more because of the struggle. And I was like, well, he's obviously concealed this pain because he didn't want me to see it or have to endure it on top of my own. And so I just was held by the one person that needed to hold me. And I feel so selfish sort of saying that, because I'm not a mum. I would love to be one day. I think I'd be a terrible mum because the empathy,
I don't think so.
only because the empathy, we've spoken about this, like, I can't tolerate seeing people I care about in pain. If my nephews or niece or godchildren or any of the people in my life are struggling, I need to fix it. Like, I can't not fix it. And that's why if I was a mum, I'd just have to fix my kids' stuff. All that, like, I'd want to protect them. I'd probably be a helicopter.
When you're a mum,
hopefully one day. But yeah, it just I can't imagine what she would have had to have endured. And there I was in her kitchen, worrying the hell out of my own family and friends, being held by the one person that probably needed to be held in that moment as well. And I'd like to think that I held her back in some ways through just the sheer moment of human connection that we shared. There was snot and tears and everything else everywhere. I reckon for a solid 3 hours, we just sat there. She stroked my head. I stroked her leg. It was probably really weird to be looking at if you were watching it from a bird's eye view, but it was the thing that we both needed, I think. Again, no words until she just said, I think you need to have a shower and get into bed, and we'll go through the next steps tomorrow. I spent 3 weeks there on the Gold Coast with her, just not like that every day. And the one thing that started to turn my life around was the concept of kindness and gratitude. And this is how, the Kindness Factory sort of started. I was sat down at a coffee table one day, and it was there for a shopping list, she later told me. It was just a piece of paper and a pen. And I don't know why, I was just having these moments of reflection where I was like, I'm at rock bottom here. I really am. And I don't have a job. Like, I'm now, 24 or whatever I was. I probably need to grow up and do something with my life at some point. Not right now. It doesn't need to be in a rush, but, had that internal dialogue of like, be a bit better than this. And I don't know why, but I just kept thinking, like, there's a lot of people in my life who have shown up for me, like Wendy being one of them. But then also, again, I worried the hell out of my own family in doing this. Like, they knew that I was safe with someone else, but also, like, if you can't wrap your arms around them, it's really tough, right? And so I just picked up the pen and I started writing down a list of names of people in my life who had shown up for me, like doctors, physios, of course, though, family, friends, important people. And at my rock bottom moment, never believing I would ever be happy again, I remember there was 30 names on this piece of paper. I remember picking up the piece of paper and holding it in front of my face and just saying to myself, Kath, if nothing else, this is 30 reasons to keep going. And then I picked up the phone and I called every single person on that list just to say thanks. The first was my doctor, and he must have seen my name flash up on the screen. He picked up almost immediately without like even barely ringing. He said, oh, what have you done? What have you broken? How do I help?
That's what I was going to say.
And I was like, oh, no, doc, I'm okay. I'm in the Gold Coast. I just wanted to let you know, I'm really grateful and thank you for showing up for me. Like, I wouldn't have a leg without you. I don't even know if I would have survived all that stuff. And I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate it. And he was really confused. He's like, what are you talking about? Like, of course I would. It's my job. But like, also, Kath, it's such a privilege to be a part of your life. Like, your spirit is really unique. And everyone just wants to see you well, mate. And every single person on that list had a very similar response. And at the end of that process, because I called every single person on that list, it took about 3 hours, and they all had, as I said, a very similar response. I remember, not like I'd swallowed a magical pill where my life suddenly made sense and it was amazing. I had a long way to go. I had therapy. I had all this kind of stuff that, again, never really gets spoken about. But I knew if I surrounded myself with the right people that everything would be okay. And I think that's the power of gratitude, which is if we look at kindness as an umbrella term, gratitude absolutely fits into that. And, there's so much research and science. Back then I was like, it just makes me feel good. And why wouldn't I thank these people? But there's not many people out there that I feel like, as you said, I speak all around the world now. And I always say, like, feeling gratitude and not expressing it is a complete waste. So if we were to think about our favorite person in the world for a moment, a spouse, a colleague, a friend, a child, whoever it is, like someone who's always had your back. Let's say it's their birthday coming up and you're like, I'm going to get them the gift they've always wanted. So you save up your money and you put your pennies away and then you go to the shop, you pay for the gift, you wrap it up, you put a bow on it. It's their birthday, you put it in the cupboard and you never give it to them. I think that would be a complete waste. And the same goes for feeling love and gratitude for someone and not expressing it. But for 90% of us, we never take the chance to actually tell a person what they mean to us. And I think it's the greatest gift that we can give ourselves and them in the process, because it will strengthen the relationship you already hold. But not only that, it will be the greatest gift that you give them and yourself in the process. And so always sort of say to people, if you've like, have you done that? And they kind of sit there scratching their head like, oh, surely they know because it's through actions or it's through, me telling them that I love them or something. No, but have you actually sat down and said, here's why I love you and what I appreciate about you? And most people sit there and go, well, no, I haven't. And I'm like, well, why? Like, because life's bloody short. Like, and things can change in the blink of an eye. There's so much science out there now, literature, research. If, scientifically, if we wrote down 3 things that we were grateful for, would take you less than 2 minutes for 21 days in a row, it literally rewires your brain.
Absolutely. And since I met you, probably the year after I met you, I started to send 5 messages every day to 5 different people to tell them what I appreciate about them. And I love it. If I miss it, I actually can feel that I've missed it, right? It's weird. It's such a rewiring, but people love it. They love that you've taken the time to do it. But I love doing it so much because it feels like it's now part of my DNA.
Here's another thing. You start to scan your environment for more reasons to be grateful. So if you started with 5 people and then you might go, oh, well, today Brittany helped me out and I'm really grateful for that. I'm going to let her know, or whatever it is. My assistant contacted me on the way here because she'd forgotten to put the hotel details and she said, I need to call the hotel about something else anyway. I said, oh, how did you go? Because she had to book an extra night. And she said, oh, the lady was just so helpful. Could you please let her know for me? Because she now starts to do it as well. She's like, I've already told her, but I think she'd really love it if you told. So it's just stuff like that. And then I'm like, how easy is it to be a legend, right? Like, and she's just like, yeah, but it's not common. Like most people go, oh, do I really have to do this? Like it's your job.
Why would you not?
Why would you not? Exactly. So yeah, it was through that was the process the catalyst to turning my life around, something that took me 3 hours to do, that I engage with every single day now and encourage anyone on the planet to do exactly the same thing. The kindness part to it, I come back to Sydney after this 3 weeks in the Gold Coast and I started looking around for a job. I got a job in sports administration and all that kind of stuff. And, but I still felt quite lost. Like I was still quite young and I was going through the process of therapy and rebuilding my life through that means. So, but everyone would always ask, Kath, like you're full of perspective. You're a wise old soul at 24. What's the one thing that stands out to you throughout all of the struggle that you've been through? My answer was always kindness. And so I was inspired through that to pay forward the kindness that I received. So we started Kindness Factory back in 2015, which was great. And as a side project to my full-time job in sport, it just made my life make sense. I ended up back at rehab again for a routine checkup. Nothing out of the ordinary. And I got some good news for a change. I said, Kath, we're ready to discharge you for life. Anything before you go? Questions. And I said, one, I really miss being able to play cricket, but I can't feel anything below my left kneecap and I can't dorsiflex my left foot. You need to be able to do that as a right-handed batter, which I was. I said, so is there anything else you think I could do physically? And they said, it will make sense to us. Your recovery was based in a pool and on a bike. You're really good at those. If you added in a run, you'd be a really good triathlete. Why don't you give that a go? I thought, righto. So I signed up for a tester. I loved it. I ended up being the first person with my disability to do a half Ironman. I did it in 2015 in the sunny coast. And I did so well at that I actually earned myself or qualified for a full Ironman. So that's a 3.8K swim.
Freaking incredible is that? This is somebody who's in a wheelchair.
Yeah, I got told
literally told you'll never walk again. And then you go and do a triathlon.
Yeah, big one too. So
it's not like I did one at Bribey, but it was a 500-meter swim, which I nearly drowned. I'm telling you, I nearly drowned. First of all, I nearly pulled out because I had to wear a bathing cap.
Yeah, got it. You do.
You should see the picture of me in the bathing cap. Shane's like, got this. Anyway, long story, but I nearly drowned.
Yeah, but it's
thanks for your gratitude.
Yeah. Anyway, training was on track.
Back to you.
For Bribey. For the Bribey Triathlon Series. I was the fittest I've ever been in my life, and with my best mate, Erin, we decided to go on a training bike ride. So we were going from Cronulla, the south of Sydney, to Manly Beach, the north of Sydney for brekkie, and then we'd go back. So like 90K, nothing in the grand scheme of the training. And I got to the north side of Sydney Harbour Bridge, started making my way toward a right-hand turn lane. And I don't really remember much about the next part of the story. I was cleaned up by a drunk driver from behind. I broke my back again in 4 places. I shattered my left hip, broke my right wrist and dislocated my neck. And I woke up from a coma 2 weeks later to the news that I was paralysed and told that I'd never walk again for the second time in my life. So again, what do you do? Who do you turn? Like, I am human, and I feel.
What are the odds of that, though? Really?
Yeah.
How many other people in the world do you reckon have been through 2 major incidents like that?
I'm not a gifted speaker, but I've now got a career as a motivational speaker around the world. It's not because I'm a good speaker; it's because it's a unique story.
Yeah,
I think, and because I'm quite authentic in the way that I tell it and all that kind of stuff. But not technically.
What makes a good speaker, though? I mean, ultimately, you're telling a story that people will get strength from and can change their life, right? Your acts of kindness piece completely changed my life. Yeah.
Thank you. That means a lot, because, that's the consequence of all this stuff, right? Is that so much good, similar to yourself, which is probably why we love each other so much. But
you really stumbled over those words. Are you okay?
Yeah. It's a fake love. It's a false love. But again, I think if you were to, what gives me superpowers, I don't think I'm different to anyone else. It's perspective, and you're huge on this. Like, I learned so much of perspective from you. In the way that you see the world is very different, vastly different to the majority of people that I spend time with. And that's not to say that you're better than them or they're worse than you, and vice versa. I don't think anyone's better than anyone in the world. But I think perspective has to be the most powerful ingredient and free resource that we have as human beings to changing the world, to overcoming adversity, to doing literally anything. If we can have the gift of perspective through our own adversities, but the witnessing of others and learning through those experiences, we can literally do whatever the hell we want. You want me to be the president of America?
Oh, yes, please.
I could do it, but I don't want to, right? But I believe that I could. And I believe if you wanted it bad, anything that you want bad enough, you can do. And you just need to persevere and figure that out. I'll never forget waking up from that coma, and I had nowhere else to look to get that perspective, but at the end of my bed were my parents. And as I woke up, blurry-eyed, completely traumatic, everyone depicts comas in movies as like this really tranquil thing where you're like, oh, there's butterflies. And it's not like that at all. You
didn't wake up with lippy on and stuff.
You got like blood and guts and sweat and beeps and tubes and snot and shit everywhere, right? It's horrible. And you're in ICU, so there's no privacy. But as the first visual that I see is my parents, and they were ghostly white. The expression on their face is not something I would wish upon anyone having to see. And I was like, Jesus Christ, like, what the hell have I put these 2 people through? Like, and not through my own fault, but I was like, shit, I'm the lucky one here. I'm not them having to watch and support this. And I just said to myself, as I was battling to breathe, just do it a bit slower and deeper. I did not put them through anything more. And that was the first time I was, 28 at this point. It was the first time I'd ever considered what it would be like to be them, to be my parents, who, again, I'm so lucky. I know not everyone is lucky enough to have parents who have given them unconditional support. Mine have. I'm so bloody lucky in that sense. And so for them, I just kept holding on, and I stayed on ICU for 6 weeks. I went into the wards for another 6 weeks, and then I went to rehab for 6 months to teach myself how to walk again.
Again?
Yeah, now I've got like a spine made out of metal and plates and pins and shit everywhere.
You must go off at the airport then, do you?
Yeah, I got that little, it's now on the phone, the electronic sort of sits behind your license that says like when you go off in the thingo. So
I have one for my pacemaker. You have to go in the special aisle to go through, right? And they have to just pat you down.
Yeah.
The Kindness Factory is your baby, like Share the Dignity is my baby. Can you tell me how many acts of kindness have now been logged through your charity?
Yeah, so we're a not-for-profit in 3 countries now. So Australia, the US, the UK, and predominantly focusing grassroots. So we've got a kindness curriculum that incorporates 12 themes of kindness into the classroom. So that's from K to 6. So after the accident, and I sort of relearned to walk again, what catapulted it was I kind of felt like myself sliding down a little bit again. I was like, why do I feel like every time I try and rebuild my life, I just get cut back down or knocked back down? And the greatest thing about learning through adversity is that you understand yourself much better than most people, because you've had to take yourselves or push yourself to darker or deeper parts of yourself. And the number one thing that always pulled me through was kindness. And I said, well, let's put it to a test. If I believe in this so much, why don't I put it to a test? So I left my home with nothing but the clothes on my back, no cash, credit card, food or water. In order to survive, I put it on social media. I would have to accept the help and kindness of strangers only. So no help off family or friends. And I didn't know how long I'd last, but I reached news stations around the world. And I traveled for 2 months to every single state in Australia with 10,000 people reaching out to help me. I fed the homeless fed me. I met battered women. I met grief-stricken middle-aged men. I met refugees. I met, you name it, I did it on that trip. And again, perspective is what it gave me. And I felt fulfilled at the end of that. But I kind of felt a bit selfish as well. I was like, I've just lived for free, essentially, for 2 months. I've documented it. It's now a best-selling book, all that kind of stuff. It's time for me to give back. And I was like, the greatest thing about the journey was, of course, the people that were helping me and the lessons I was learning about life and documenting and teaching others. But also all these random people were contacting me going, Kath, I know I couldn't help you because I'm not in Australia or Sydney or wherever I was at that point in time, but I wanted to let you know that this has really inspired me. Today, I mowed my neighbour's lawn, or I donated blood, or I tied my sister's shoelace. I fed my neighbour's dog. They were sending me acts of kindness, and I thought, well, what do I do with this? Because this is great that people are engaging. So I just flipped the website, spoke to the developer, and I said, can we just create a log of acts? And we set a goal to reach 1 million acts of kindness back then in 2016. And as of today, we're at 7.2 million acts from all around the globe.
Shut your face.
Shut your face.
That's crazy. And I remember the year that we'd met, right? And I said, imagine if we could get all of the people who make It's in the Bag to log their act of kindness. And that took you over a 5 million mark, wasn't it?
It was something like that. It was ridiculous. Your community is bloody powerful. And again, I'm not going to piss in your pocket because we're terrible at that as well. But I remember going to a Dignity with you guys. You invited me to come along to a Sydney event. And I remember just not being shocked. Shock's the wrong word, because I shouldn't be shocked, because I know how powerful your community is and I know how generous they are and beautiful they are and because of you and all that kind of stuff as well. But I just remember going, holy shit, you know how to bring a tribe of women together and get them into action. I do this all around the world. I've never seen a community as strong as that, ever. So hats off to you, hats off to all the people that make Share the Dignity what it is, because that's a very unique skill that not a lot of people are able to do.
Oh, thank you. And I think, like you, I think it's about, and I think I've said this before, this is never about me. Share the Dignity is never about me. It is about the woman who doesn't have a voice, and we need to be the voice for her. And we need to make sure that she has what she needs to be able to live with her life with dignity. We're not giving her money to be able to pay her DV court cases or house her or do any of those big grand things. We're simply giving her the very basic of essentials to make sure that she can live her life with dignity. But this is not me. It's the volunteer who's in Bundaberg or Ballarat or Bendigo. They're the people who make Share the Dignity what it is, right? And then the people who donate. There's so many people that Share the Dignity touches the life of. And my job is, and has always been, is to make it super easy to donate, to make it super easy to volunteer, and to make sure that we continue to tell the stories that encourage them and feel really proud of the fact that they were able to be part of living in a better world.
Well, it's incredible, but it has to start somewhere as well. So while you can reflect back and be, in awe of all these people who have made it what it is, they had to be drawn back to one thing, and you started that, and I think you need to take credit for that as well. That's the power of one, though, right? So we can sit here and be humble, and I can say, yeah, there's 7.2 million acts of kindness that wouldn't have happened without me and all that kind of. No, it's all the people. It started with one act. That was my act. It's now grown into that. I'm not sitting here wanting to take credit for it, but it's great that it snowballed into this. And I think the point that I want to make with that, and with your own story of both of us sitting here being truly humble with our own experiences, is that anyone can do that. You and I aren't special. We're not. We're just people who had an idea and we started. And I remember when we were at 10 Acts of Kindness on the website, and my mates are the biggest piss takers you could ever meet, the best people you could ever meet. And they'd ring me and they go, what are you going for again? I'd go, 1 million. And they go, mate, you're a long way from 1 million. I go, yeah, but we're 10 in from zero. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And everyone has that opportunity, like to create something out of whatever their life is. It doesn't even have to be hardship. It can be just an idea that you have walking by on the street or whatever it is. And everyone has that opportunity and everyone has that power. I think I read a quote that you put up that I actually reference every speech I give is the world is changed by your example, not by your opinion. To me, it just means action. Like there are so many ideas out there, right? Who actually takes the tangible steps to make those ideas a reality? Because we can sit there and think about them and think how wonderful they could be. And if someone else then goes and does that and we end up being resentful, that's on you. That's not on someone else for taking the chance and taking the opportunity to create something that's better for the world. So next idea someone has, have a crack at it.
Absolutely.
You can't fail.
I think that if you are part of the solution, you're part of the problem too,
Agree.
right?
Yeah.
So if you see something that's wrong and you don't action it or you don't say something, then you're part of the problem. And like you said, take a crack at it.
Have a crack. Yeah.
You are so right. I'm not an extraordinary person. I just wanted to make sure that people didn't go without period product. Today, just be kind.
And every day, right?
Yeah. But start with today.
Yeah, start today. And start with yourself too.
Speak kindly to others, but don't ever forget, you can't be nice to somebody else if you're not nice to you. Do something kind for yourself today and then log it.
At kindnessfactory.com.